and welcome you to our Customer Success Leadership Bootcamp for today. My name is Dave Blake. I'm the founder and CEO of Client Success, and want to welcome Kristi Faltorusso, our Chief Customer Officer. Everybody knows her. Happy to have you here, Kristi. How you doing today? I know you're a little bit under the weather, so we're going to ask for everybody's collective prayers and best wishes and sprinkle magic dust to help you feel better.
Yeah, more patience and kindness, as I will probably be a lot slower, which I think the audience will actually appreciate. I'll probably be a little bit slower and a little bit more nasally. I'm hoping to just make it through the hour.
That's okay. Did you have a good Thanksgiving weekend?
Oh, I had a lovely Thanksgiving weekend. My husband and I, we actually celebrate our anniversary, which is technically December 1st, so this Thursday, but we always celebrate on Thanksgiving. So it's a really special day for us at home. My daughter celebrated her 14th birthday this past
Oh,
weekend, so I got to host a whole bunch of 14-year-old girls at my house, which was it's always
adventure.
fun and keeps me on my toes. But yeah, no, it was a great weekend. I thought it would be more relaxing than it was. We also, put up our tree and turn over the house, hence some of my decorations here, but just never really as relaxing as I hope it would be.
Well, glad that you had at least you were able to celebrate some amazing anniversaries and birthdays. We're sorry you're not feeling well, and thank you for still coming when you're not feeling well to do
The show must go on.
That's right. That's right. So today we're talking about a great topic. We're talking about product being part of the product feedback loop. And I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah, this is a hot topic, right? And what we're going to go through today is just making sure that everyone's on the same page with the importance of making sure that your customers really do have a voice in your product roadmap, that your product teams understand the value of connecting directly with their customers, and that internally, right, there's strong collaboration between customer success, product support, and all of these teams, because that's really key to making sure that innovation is in line with what customers want and need. And I know that our teams here at Client Success probably couldn't work any closer together. I always say JD feels like more of a part of our team in customer success than any other part of our organization. JD is our SVP of product here at Client Success, and a wonderful partner and friend. So I'm excited to dive into this one today.
All right. Well, we'll let you go. I'll jump into the background. I'll man the chat and the Q&A, and I'll be back at the end.
All right, sounds great. Well, thrilled to be back here. Sad that it is the last installation of this bootcamp series. Like Dave mentioned earlier, we are going to kick off in Q1. TBD if it'll be January or February. I'm trying to get some feedback from folks. Sometimes January is a good month, sometimes it's not. Last January proved to be successful, so we'll see. But anyway, great to be back. Kristi Faltorusso, Chief Customer Officer here at Client Success. Today, we're going to be talking about how to design and leverage an effective product feedback loop to drive innovation, right? And to create products that your customers want and need. I don't know about any of you, but in my customer success career, I've worked in a ton of different organizations that had varying degrees of collaboration with product, right? Some where I felt like we were in lockstep and that our product team cared really deeply about what our customers wanted, what they said, what they were asking for, and others where they felt, kind of innovation and the future was more important. And so there was a bit of a disconnect. And so I've learned a lot through my journey of what I feel like worked well and what didn't. And so today we're going to talk a bit about just how to bring those two teams together, but more importantly, how to make sure that the information being captured from frontline teams is being properly disseminated, that you're using it thematically to make the right decisions for your company, and that you're driving that innovation in a way that's going to help your customers grow and stay with you long term. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So, me, I always like to start with some profound statement. So today is a quick statement that I kind of put together because it kind of resonated with me when I was thinking about this, designing this presentation for today's session. But in order to design a product your customers will want, you have to know what they will want. Now, I talked about this. I did a keynote a couple months back in London, and I used the example of this disconnect and operating in silos. And I did work with a team once where the product team almost always innovated without any input from the customer success team or our customers directly, and then would wonder why the product was never fully adopted or why there was all these tickets being submitted. And it just felt like there was this huge disconnect, right? Like product, you're designing something for the end users, but you weren't even leaning in to understand what it is they needed and wanted, right? We made so many assumptions. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I'm thrilled that at Client Success, that's not the case. But if you are operating in an organization today where you do feel like there are silos and product is designing and moving forward and innovating without feedback from your customers, now's the time for you to really kind of voice your opinion, to halt how things are going, start, pump the brakes, and maybe start to pivot, because that feedback from your customers is really, really key. It's critical to driving retention, growth, advocates, and we're going to talk all about that today. So want to highlight the benefits here, because I know sometimes it's not always easy to understand why we would do something. And I think the why is always important, right? The why is how you're going to get buy-in from all these teams who you're really asking to kind of change maybe behaviors, right? And if you're in customer success, we all know all about change management and how difficult that is. And so we want to get that collective buy-in. So if you're not an organization today that has really started to align your customer success and product teams, let me just tell you, there's immense benefits to each team, and more importantly, your customers, more importantly, your company. So first, stronger adoption. So if you're building and enhancing products based on customer feedback, you're almost always going to get it right. I will tell you, we've had customers who have given feedback in our beta programs who are very vocal about, hey, this should do this, and here's the workflows, and really guiding us. Beta programs, which we'll talk about later, are really instrumental in taking that feedback live, kind of in real time while you're designing and developing product. And let me tell you, that feedback almost always resonates with the rest of the customer base, right? They're using that product day in and day out. And so to hear them voice different workflows or different things that we didn't think of and didn't consider almost always results in stronger adoption of that product, right? Because our customers have this strong innate ability to correlate it back to the work that they're trying to do. And so that's what you want to hone in on. So if you have the ability to hear from your customers and take that feedback, you're going to be able to innovate in a way that will drive stronger adoption, because it's going to help them, again, achieve what they're looking to achieve. Revenue growth. If you have a modular product, right, or even if you don't today and you're thinking about going that direction, right, where you're going to be able to sell additional products, right? So not more of what you have, but your customers adding on new products that solve different problems. This is a huge area of growth opportunity too for your business. If you have direct line of sight into what your customers are asking for and what they need, and if you're able to design it in a way that's going to drive real material value for their business, this also creates a new revenue line for you as well. Think about it. I mean, I'm sure many of you are maybe familiar with like brands like Oracle or Adobe or even Salesforce or any product, right? There are some things that you can add on as additional products to enhance your workflows, right? To really streamline, to drive efficiencies. And that usually costs more money. Those revenue opportunities are great, but really important that they come directly from your customers. That's where you're going to see that growth stream. Because if you understand what your customers are looking for, what they need, and what they're willing to pay for, if you design, develop that, you'll be able to drive more revenue that way. You'll also be able to increase advocacy. And so if something that you guys are focused on today is building advocates in your customer base, which hopefully that's something you're all paying attention to, but customers who are part of innovation, they're part of the roadmap, they feel like a true partner to your brand and your company, there's a higher likelihood that they will actually have to be able to serve as advocates, right? So as you think about that, also consider the fact that pulling them into this process, making them feel heard, designing product based on their feedback and ideas, will help drive advocates. And advocates, we know, probably the strongest sales pipeline that your company has, right? They're the peers that are talking again with each other, right? They're having conversations. People are always looking for references and referrals from their friends and colleagues whom they trust. If you're able to really develop your customers into advocates, and this is a great way to do it, it'll help you long-term also grow your business. And then with retention, right? We see this all the time here at Client Success, but if you have the ability to understand what your customers need, and then you deliver that, guess what? Your customers are happy to stay. they're getting value from your solution, you're able to continue to enhance it and deliver innovation that's in line with their needs and their feedback, they will stay with you long term. And so if retention is an area of focus for you, which I do believe, especially in this economy right now, that a lot of companies are really doubling down on that, now is the time to lean into your customer base, to really understand what do they need to be successful, what are they asking for, and work towards developing and innovating in that direction. So again, if these are any areas of focus for you, adoption, growth, advocacy, or retention, strengthening the collaboration between these two teams and making sure that your product organization has visibility and insight into what your customers need and are asking for is going to help deliver these. So definitely a good reason and probably a strong case to start shifting gears if you're not doing this already. So I want to talk just really kind of high level, right? When we think about structuring a program around this, I kind of think about it through 4 points, right? Where are the insights, right? So where are all the places that we're collecting all of this information? And that lives everywhere. Remember that your customers are providing you solicited and unsolicited feedback, which means it's being captured programmatically and probably just through conversation. It's important that you have mechanisms to capture this information and that it can be disseminated across your business. Now, I talk often about data democratization because I do believe it's important that everyone in your company have visibility into the data that's going to help drive your business forward. So understanding where all of these insights live is key. Now, remember, it's not just your customer success teams that are capturing this information. It could be coming from marketing, could be coming directly from product, it's coming from sales for sure. And so making sure that you've got a way to capture all of that information, and that way you can pull it all together to help tell a story. Now, we talked about storytelling last week. This is a good component of that, right? Being able to ask good questions about what the data is telling you to drive insights and innovation. The next thing I like to focus on is how you're sharing that information, right? So it's important to understand where it all lives and then be able to make sure that you're sharing it. So again, stemming from that data democratization, it's key that all that information be able to be accessed by the people who are going to need it to make these decisions. Now, for a lot of folks, it lives in a multitude of different systems and tools, and that's fine. You've got to find a way to aggregate it, or you've got to have a way to make sure that everybody who does need it has access to that information. Now, there is, again, like I said, there's this unsolicited information that's coming through as well into your product feedback funnel. And so making sure that you've got a way to share that. And we love real-time sharing here at ClientSuccess. Our product does a great job of integrating with tools like Slack. So for us, as we're capturing some feedback from our customers, we're usually putting it into our solution, almost always putting it into our solution, and then also pumping it back into Slack. And Slack, because everyone in our company has access to it, can see in real time what our customers are needing, what they're asking for. And it's a great way just to make sure that everyone's got a pulse on thematically what's happening with our customer base and what their needs are. Then you've got to figure out how you're going to use it, right? It's great that you know where it all lives. It's great that you're sharing it, but if you're not putting this information to action, you're really missing the mark, because this is where that value steps in for your customers. They want to understand that not only are they being heard, but their ideas are in line with your vision. Now, of course, we all know that not every customer idea is going to be part of your roadmap, and that's okay. It is your job to set proper expectations and communicate to them what will be part of it, what won't be part of it, but put it to use, right? If you're seeing that 80% of your customer base is asking for something, maybe it's worth creating that something, right? So lean into that feedback, but put it to use. And then make sure that you're closing the loop. Our customers, they're okay. Sometimes they're mostly okay with your decisions to move forward with or to not move forward with certain product designs, innovations, or changes. But it's really, really critical that you manage and temper expectations and that you manage that communication. So closing the loop is key. For us here at ClientSuccess, we try to always set proper expectations with our customers. They have a ton of great ideas, right? They're using other technology, they're using other solutions, they've got creative workflows. They're always coming to us with really cool, innovative things that they'd love to see in our product. And we wish we could deliver all of those immediately for them. But like most of you, right, we all work in an organization where we're not a custom dev shop where we're building every single thing custom for our customers, right? It's not bespoke. We're based off of a software model that allows us to innovate and roll all of this out to our customers. So it is key, though, to make sure that if you are developing something that your customers have asked for, let them know. If you're not developing something your customers have asked for, let them know. Give all the context around and behind it, because it will help temper expectations and manage the partnership more effectively. So as you're thinking through, how do you embrace on a program where, again, you're being more methodical about bringing customer feedback and information to your product teams, or strengthening the collaboration between your customer success or customer experience teams and your product organizations, make sure that you're thinking through, where are all the insights, right? Where's everything being captured? Do we have access to all that information? How are we sharing it, right? So how are we making sure that everybody who needs to have access to it has access to it? How are we putting that to use? So again, thinking about how do you integrate all that feedback into your roadmap design, and more importantly, into product development. And then how are you closing the loop, right? It's not even just about managing communication, it's through product enablement and all these other areas as well, all very key to making sure that your program will be a success. So let's start by talking about where you're collecting customer insights. Customer information, like I said, comes from solicited and unsolicited channels. You might have some VOC initiatives, VOC standing for Voice of Customer. So if you're not familiar, right? These are really specific, bespoke initiatives where you are soliciting information. Not all are solicited, but mainly solicited information, where you're capturing information from your customers about how they feel about the partnership, how they feel about your product, right? There's immense amounts of different types of information you can capture here. There's always often a lot of product insight though. So this could come by way of things like customer interviews, surveys, chat, social media, different review forums, NPS, feedback forums that you're sending out. So if you've got ways that you are capturing or you're soliciting customer feedback and insights and information, that's going to be a really great way to go and collect that data to share with your product team. The second place here is to make product usage reports and insights. Now, this is different, but I do believe that behaviors are insightful and tell us a lot about our product. For example, if you've got products that you've rolled out and you feel like your teams have done a great job training and enabling your customers on how to properly use it, but it's just not getting the adoption, there's probably a reason for that. And so this is a great opportunity to dig into that data to learn more about how your customers are using or not using your products, and where you can enhance product innovation to help drive and strengthen adoption long term. So again, product usage data, hopefully, I mean, maybe some of you are using tools like Pendo or others where you're capturing that information. If you are, it's a great place to start. If you're not using a tool like that, perhaps you've got backend data that will at least help you gain some insight and visibility into what your customers are doing with your products. The third area is support tickets. Now, I love this. I think there's a lot you can uncover from support tickets, especially around themes. We know that thematically that there's probably certain tickets that come into our support queue around certain products, and there's a higher percentage of those than others. And that's a really great way for us to understand what are our customers struggling with. Now, we also break that down into like, hey, is it product things, or is this a training and enablement gap? In which case we can lean into that from a customer success standpoint. But if it is around the product, this is where our product teams can help us. So understanding things that like our customers just aren't quite figuring out. It could be a UI thing. It could be a design thing. It could be the product just actually doesn't do what our customers assume it should. In which case, okay, that's probably a cool place to start to think about how do we do things a little differently. So a lot of information can be collected from your support tickets. So if you've got a team who's managing your technical support, maybe they're using a tool like Jira or Zendesk, have them start to pull ways that they can actually tag tickets so you can understand thematically what are customers asking for, what are their challenges, have them categorize it, and that can be really helpful information for your product teams. The next area is around engagements. Not every organization, I understand, has a high engagement model. In fact, there are so many PLG motions out there, but there is probably conversations, or probably are conversations happening with your customers at different points in their life cycle. It's important that you understand the feedback and the sentiment and their product needs that are coming out of those conversations. So making sure that you have a way to capture information that's coming directly from those dialogues. For us at ClientSuccess, obviously we're using ClientSuccess to capture that information. It helps to make sure that every time we do engage with one of our customers, we're documenting that feedback there. We're also putting in the relevant information regarding customer feedback or product themes, things like that, into the solution as well, which really helps to streamline that back to our product org. And then another place, and definitely not, this is not the last, right? I always try to say these are not exhaustive lists. They're the ones that I can come up with in that moment. But community, right? It's not unlikely that your customers are asking other folks how they're doing things, right? How they're solving problems. It could be interesting to lean into that, to hear how other people are solutioning and solving things, especially if it's outside of your product. Right. So for example, I know that there are a ton of onboarding platforms out there, right? If you're a customer success team, perhaps you're using something like Rocket Lane or using Guide CX or something like that. It's interesting to understand, for us at Client Success, why might some of our customers use another solution to manage onboarding as opposed to just using ours, right? Or how do they work to collaborate? How can we strengthen, insights flowing from one tool from another? So there's just a lot you can learn. And I've even seen just in the customer success community, a lot of those conversations taking place. So there's a ton you can learn, even just from the ongoing dialogues that are happening between your customers and their peers, other folks in the space. And so leaning into that could really help you figure out what are new things you should be doing to build out your product, right? What should you be thinking about in terms of innovation or even integrations, right? So there's a lot to be learned about what your customers need from the conversations they're having just broadly in the community. So if you aren't actively collecting this information, if you're not actively doing something, please, these are places where there is wealth of data. This is your landmine, right? Like this is you're sitting on it, your gold mine, rather. Sorry, I'm sick. But make sure that you're going into and you're unpacking all the information coming from their VOC initiatives. Again, some of this might be spearheaded by your marketing team, if not your customer success teams, your product usage reports, and any data you have about how your customers are currently using your product and adopting it. Your support team has a wealth of information there as well. Please have them help you uncover themes about what's coming through from product, engagements and just those conversations, and then community as well. So lots of information about how your customers feel about your product and what they'd like to see from it long term. Now, it's important to make sure that while we know where it could be coming in from, to make sure that you've got a place to share and store that feedback. This goes back to, again, thinking through that data democratization that I talked about, right? But there's a lot of places and ways, and it really does depend on the size of your organization and the maturity, right? Your tech stack, all these things play a part into it. But one place that I love to make sure that information is being shared is chat. Whether you're using Slack or Teams, this is a great avenue to make sure, especially in real time, if I'm on a call with a customer and the customer is talking about something with a product, obviously I'm capturing it in the proper channels in Client Success to make sure it's going through that. But if it's something really cool and really innovative that I don't think that we've thought of, I might just drop that into Slack, and so that people can see, hey, like customer just mentioned this really cool new use case. This is something we should be thinking about. Awesome place to just go and get it out there fast and in real time. You'd be interested to see the different types of dialogues and customer conversations about your customers that might be happening in there. For example, sometimes we'll hear things and then I'll get another CSM who's like, oh, I heard something very similar from my customer as well. That would be so cool. Here at Client Success, we use our product. So oftentimes when I'm hearing our customers ask for things, I'm like, oh, yeah, I want that too. And so it's really neat to just kind of be able to ideate with them, but put that stuff right into a chat. Most of you are housing that information in perpetuity anyway. If you have a designated channel that maybe is called product feedback or ideas and innovation or whatever you want to call it, could just be a great place to drop ideas. Could be either from you internally, folks that have ideas about the product, or things you're hearing from your customers. So just a great way to go and share that out. Feedback tools. Perhaps some of you guys are using tools like Canny or Product Board that allow your customers to go and submit product ideas. It allows from a community standpoint for customers to go in and make comments and to upvote. Also allows your product team to go and collaborate and share updates. Great place to go and get that. Also a great place for your customers to go and search things to see, hey, do other customers have similar ideas? Are they asking for similar things? And if so, has product responded, right? Are there things in the works already for something like this? So I like tools like that. You could also be capturing information that is coming back from your survey tools. So if you are doing a lot of customer surveys, you might be using things like SurveyMonkey, or if you're doing NPS, again, Client Success, where we drink our own champagne, we have our own NPS tool built into our solution, so we can send out NPS surveys. So we're capturing that information into Client Success. But figuring out what are the different mechanisms and tools that you're using, and if information lives there, that's great. How are you making sure that information is getting fed back to the broader organization, or that people have access to that? Your support tickets, so like I mentioned, probably you've got some information that is going into Jira or Zendesk. This could be coming from customer tickets being submitted. Otherwise, if you're hearing customer feedback, some organizations have better success making sure that all product requests, ideas are all being fed into something like a Jira or Zendesk so they can keep track of it. There are integrations with those tools into other solutions like a product board, which will help for product road mapping and planning. So if you don't have a place to go and put that, and you're already using, a ticketing system for customer support, perhaps you can use that creatively to also store these ideas in, so that way it lives somewhere. You can also, collaborate on those tickets and things like that. So being able to have that stored in one single place could also be helpful for an organization if that's how you're managing your team, or if you don't have a better place to put it right now. Your CRM. This is also going to have a wealth of information. Now, remember, I talked about the sales team also having a lot of customer, or in that case, prospect product feedback. And so folks that are evaluating your software, they're looking at your platform, they're probably having their own thoughts about what they would like to see your product do. It's also likely that they're evaluating other softwares, right? And so they might be even sharing tidbits of things that they're seeing out in the market, right? Oh, I saw another solution that did X, Y, and Z. Is that something that you guys do, or something you offer, right? Your sales team could be capturing that feedback into the CRM. And so that could be a great place to store that if you're not using a specific platform for customers. But again, your CRM is going to help with that sales process. So that is an appropriate place for your sales team to be capturing that feedback. If you are a customer success team and you're capturing that feedback now from your customers, no longer your prospects, hopefully you're being able to capture that into your customer success platform. So like I said, ClientSuccess is where we put all our customer product feedback. We make sure that we're disseminating that into our pulse updates. We have it in our engagements. We also have custom fields that my team is being very clearly instructed to indicate, okay, these are things that our customers need in order to be successful, right? We have ways to track things that are prohibitive, things that are nice to have, but it gives our team a really good at a glance when we're looking to see what are the places we need to innovate around in order to ensure success for our customers long term. And then lastly, I always talk about this, Excel will forever be the most powerful tool out in the world. If not, maybe you're using Google Sheets, but either way, these sheets can serve as fantastic trackers. So if you don't have all the fancy technology to store and capture all of this, hopefully at least you have access to Excel or Google Sheets or some kind of sheet tool like that where you can go and input in that information. So like I said, these are all great places where you can start to think about, where do we share and store that information, especially if it's coming through different channels. Now, the kind of ultimate goal here is to be able to integrate all of these things together and have all of that data living in one place. That's the holy grail, right? Because we don't want to have all of our teams have to go to all these places to go see and gather all this information. We know that that is the case in some organizations, right? You're still going to have to go, at least maybe not to all of them, but to some different channels. But wherever you can capture this information and kind of really send it over into other tools, so you do have that true North Star where your product team can say, hey, this is actually what's being asked for. That would be, I think, the best way for all of your teams to come together around and rally around that customer feedback. Now, of course, most of these tools you can export and you can hack together all this data. It'll be a bit more manual, and that's not making it impossible, just more time consuming, but it's really great if you're able to just put it all together. So that way you have one single source of truth around what is your customers need. Now, this goes back to my conversation from last week. So hopefully if you were a part of that webinar series from last week, we talked about how do you use insights and learnings to drive better business decisions. This is a great example of where pulling all of this data together will help you be able to ask really smart questions, right? So for example, if I'm on the product team and I want to say okay, well, what product request is going to have the most impact on revenue next quarter, right? You'd be able to quickly drill down and see hey, these are the customers that are renewing in the next quarter. Here's the most common product feedback or theme that we're seeing being asked for, or innovation that's needed, right? And your product team can actually now lean into that really quickly. So if you have a way to pull this all together, it will strengthen your ability to take action on it. But the very least, you have to make sure that it's being captured somewhere. It has to live somewhere in order to access it and use it in the future. If you're just having random conversations with your customers and you're listening to all their great ideas, that's wonderful. I'm sure that makes them feel really good. But the better way to deliver for your customers and to show up for them is to actually put that to use. So figure out a way to go and capture that information. I've given you a ton of different tools here, some that are hopefully accessible to you right now in your tech stack, some that could be a possibility for you in the future, but all these ways are great avenues to store and share that product feedback so you can put it to work. So part two, right? How do we put that data to work? So the first part, which I've just really spent a lot of time talking about, is bringing that data together. Making sure that you have it all in one place is going to be the best way to make that work. Now, I will say, we'll move on to the second one with finding themes. Early stage companies, it is not uncommon for your biggest customer, right, or your loudest CSM to be that squeaky wheel who ends up driving a lot of innovation, right? You might have a huge customer, maybe in terms of revenue, or maybe just a wonderful logo that you're working to maintain that ends up influencing where and how you innovate. And that's maybe okay in an early stage company. But when you get to a place where you've got thousands of customers and lots of revenue, that no longer works, right? It is really going to be important that you think about how to behave like a company that is scaling. And to do that, once you pull that data together, it's important to find those themes. Now, I gave an example, right, of how maybe you might ask a question to see like, okay, well, what is the thing that all of our customers of a certain segment, or all of our customers who are renewing within a certain period of time, or all of our customers who are at risk, right? There's different ways to break up your customer data and then to ask questions to help you hone in on those themes. For example, at ClientSuccess, right, we might be able to hear, listen, with a lot of companies right now trying to do more with less, sadly, a lot of folks are looking to figure out ways to scale. And so we're seeing common themes pop up around, automation and how do we leverage community and things like that. Those are themes, right? And those themes are important for us to understand and internalize as we think about the future of our roadmap, right? In order to support our customers and meet them where they are. Now, we're not taking any one individual customer's feedback and saying, okay, great, here, we're going to go build this one thing because customer A asked for it, but we're looking for commonality, right? Customers of a certain size, customers of a certain industry, or using a certain workflow or driving a certain outcome, right? What are the themes around the data that suggest this is the right part of the product that we need to focus on, right? Or this is the right innovation. This is the right next thing to build. So finding those common themes is really going to help influence where to focus your time, energy, and attention. For product teams, right, it could get really overwhelming if you're just saying, hey, we need to change this and this needs to be purple and we need to move that up there and this doesn't exist. There's a lot of requests that can be coming from your customer base. It's important that before you go and share that is that you do boil it down to those themes. Now, we always talk about business impact, right? Because it would be great if I could design every single thing that every single customer has ever asked for. But we also we're trying to run a business, as most of you are. And so it's important that we correlate that back to impact. Now, it could be current revenue impact, right? Like our customers need this, and if we don't deliver this thing, they're not going to stay with us, right? They're going to churn. So this is really our retention numbers are contingent on developing or innovating a certain way. It could be, hey, listen, we've exhausted all avenues of our product and our customers are at a point right now where they're using it all. And we need to think about innovation, right? If we want new revenue streams, we've got to build new products so we can go and sell it so our customers can consume it. So you might start to see things there, right? Themes around what your customers are asking for could create new revenue channels for the business. So it's important to have those stories to be able to show as close to reality as possible. Right. So from a retention standpoint, it's always easy, right? These customers will churn if we don't do X. From a growth standpoint, it could be hypothetical, right? We believe that X% of our customers who are asking for this are willing to pay Y. If we build this, it could generate, A. So those are helpful anecdotes, but put some impact to it. Data is what sells. And so make sure that your stories are tight when you're looking at this information. Next, you're going to have to make your decisions, right? Not everything is going to make it to the roadmap. We've talked about that. Some of the hardest decisions I've made as a leader, as a professional in my career are around what do we build? I will tell you, like, I wish I could build everything for every single one of my customers. That would be my wish, but we can't, right? Every organization only has a number of resources that they can leverage to build, to innovate. And it's important that you as a team are working together to figure out what do we need to prioritize, right? Part of it is going to be vision and new innovation. Part of it is going to be, hey, our customers need certain things in order to do their jobs, right? This renders the product prohibitive if they can't. So you've got to make decisions based off of this information, and then you've got to communicate that out. A lot of times what I see happen and what fails a lot of teams is that decisions are being made, but then the communication around those decisions isn't being disseminated properly, right? So you're not being clear to the broader organization what the intentions are. What are we going to do? Now, if you're a frontline team member, right, your support, your success, onboarding, whomever, if you're working directly with your customers, it's a challenge, right? If you can't tell your customers what is going to happen based off of the things that they've asked for, requested, or things that they need, ideas that they've had. So it is critical that once you've brought that data together, you found your themes, you've figured out what kind of business impact you can drive, you've decided what you're going to do, that you tie off with that communication. That is so, so key. So please make sure that you guys are talking internally. It could be through different forums. Maybe you have a weekly meeting with your product team. It could be in a Slack channel, it could be via email, doesn't matter. You just need to make sure that everyone in the organization is on the same page with your decisions and the whys behind it. Now, you don't necessarily need to socialize all of your whys and the details with your customers necessarily, because they don't need to know every detail that goes into everything that may be making up your decision to build or not build something. But set proper expectations, give them as much context as you feel like you can and what's appropriate for them. But if your frontline teams don't have that, they can't manage that with your customers, which is a poor experience for them long term. So just quickly going to talk through a few different product-driven feedback programs that I've seen tremendous success with. So if you are looking to get your product teams closer aligned to your customers, these are 4 things that you can do tomorrow to help start driving that initiative. The first would be a product advisory board. Or PAB, right? Maybe you're doing a customer advisory board and using it for product innovation ideas, things like that as well. That's totally fine. So a customer advisory board, product advisory board, all the same, fine, either one. But using this is a great way to facilitate a formal group to collaborate with customers, to ideate and innovate on what your product looks like, right? Where is the market heading? Helps give you really good clarity around what should you be doing, what should you be building. And these are kind of your trusted customer advisors. It's really, really helpful in order to use that data to just make sure that you're thinking about it through the lens of your customers and not through the lens of your product managers. Beta programs. We're really big here at ClientSuccess on beta programs and pulling our customers in as we're designing and developing new product. I think it's a great way to give your customers a voice. But like I said earlier, there's also things that you're not realizing, as you might not be an end user of your product, that workflows and certain things, and again, assumptions and just ways that your customers are using your product today that you might not see as you're designing and developing it. But these beta programs will give your product team access to these customers who are willing and able to provide that feedback early. So when you do release your product into general release, it's going to be a product that your customers really love and can adopt. Customer interviews. This is something that we did really well at one company when I was at. Our product managers would very intently have conversations with our customers and interview them around certain things. If they saw through product usage and adoption data that certain customers were using certain products really well and that others weren't, they'd oftentimes draft up interview questions and be very specific and pointed in their efforts to learn more about why products work with certain customers, why they don't work with others, what that gap is, how do we bridge that delta. And that was really, really useful because all that information came back into the product team and helped drive really creative new innovations that helped customers of all sizes at all stages really get the most from every product we released. So those customer interviews, again, very intentional, very, very, very useful. Product roadmap tours. Every organization has their feelings around roadmap and who can control the conversations around your product roadmap. I won't say that there's a right or wrong way. I've had some organizations where the product team was the only team allowed to talk to our customers about the product roadmap. Others where the product team trained and enabled the customer success teams, so we were empowered to go and talk about the product roadmap with our customers directly. I'm not saying that one is right and one is wrong, but being very intentional about talking to your customers about what the future looks like about your product is really going to help drive a lot of feedback and collaboration again with your customers. So they might really be on board with what you're doing, and that's great. It's helpful for validation. You might also hear from your customers that they're surprised that you're going in one direction and not another. And they might be able to bring new ideas, new innovation, and new thoughts to help you think differently. These are 4 different, very intentional strategies that your product team can lean into to help make sure that they're collecting the voice of your customers in product innovation design and the roadmap. So how do we facilitate stronger collaboration, strengthening that collaboration between these teams? I will tell you, like I said, I've had some organizations where we work really well and closely with our product teams. Client Success is just one of those. And we do this very clearly through these 4 areas. So 1, recurring cadence of engagement. It doesn't need to mean that you're meeting weekly, bi-weekly. It could be a monthly conversation depending on where your organization is, but have some recurring cadence of engagement with the 2 teams. At Client Success, we're meeting with our product teams. Sometimes we're having conversations daily, but we have a weekly recurring meeting that allows for our teams to come together to talk about product feedback, what's coming down the pipeline from product. So create and establish a recurring meeting. Make sure that you're intentional about who's a part of that, right? So is it success? Is it success and support, onboarding? Is it, sales a part of that as well? So figure out what does that recurring cadence look like and who's going to be a part of it. Be very tight on your objectives and your agendas for these meetings. You don't want this to be a kind of a lashing out on about product and say, oh, this thing doesn't work and our customers hate this, or we don't have this. We need to, right? Like you have to have meeting control around these conversations to make everyone feel safe and collaborative. So make sure that you have very intentional objectives and agendas about this. Ensure the right people are attending, and clarity around next steps is key. These shouldn't feel like vent sessions. This should feel like a very thoughtful and intentional conversation, and that next steps are coming from it. Access to the same insights, we talked about this earlier, but making sure that all of the teams that are working on your product kind of roadmap and innovation, that they're all working off of the same data sets. So making sure that everyone has access to the same information, really helpful there. Use the data to make your decisions together. That collaboration stems from that data as a source, as opposed to it just being feelings or sentiment. And set up dashboards, right, for ease of collaboration. If you're using a CRM or if you're using some other platform or tool, be able to have like an at-a-glance view of, hey, these are the things that we think it's important to pay attention to, whether that be product usage and adoption, or it could be, retention targets if you're working on certain objectives, but figure out what it is and make sure that you guys are all using the same information to manage your business and manage that direction. Shared objectives. This is super helpful. I say this anytime you want to drive or strengthen collaboration between any 2 teams, give them a shared objective that they're working towards. For CS and product teams, this could be around adoption, could be usage, could even be retention. But making sure that you've got something that both teams are working towards helps make sure that we're all marching in the same direction. Socialize the performance around these shared goals early and often, making sure that everyone is looking at this and that everyone has a sense of accountability and ownership around the ability to hit those or to not, and hold your teams accountable for that performance. And the last thing is clear roles and responsibilities, making sure that, we want to pull product teams into our customer discussions. Make sure it's clear on what are the roles and responsibilities for each team, right? I think sometimes customer success professionals can feel like they own the customer and can sometimes be gatekeepers, right? And that's just something I've seen in my experience, is that sometimes that relationship with the customer feels like theirs, and they can sometimes, it could be off-putting to have other folks stepping in if they don't have clarity around what does that look like and how will that impact the customer. So making sure you've got clarity around the roles and responsibilities, have a place to document conversations and engagements. Like I said, Client Success for us is a great place that we do that. If someone from my product team is speaking to my customer, they're going to document it right in there. I can see that conversation. I can see those notes. Really helpful place for me to pick right back up. And then educate your customers on how to effectively leverage all of the teams that they'll be working with during the customer lifecycle. If you're allowing your customers access to your product team, make sure that they are clear on how to use it. They shouldn't be going to your product team if they have a bug or they have an idea, right? So be very intentional about how customers and your other cross-functional teams should be collaborating together. So if you can do these 4 things, again, establish some recurring cadence to keep that collaboration happening, make sure that everyone is working off the same data, you've got shared objectives and clear understanding of roles and responsibilities, I think you can all work really well together with that shared end goal of innovating in a way that your customers will need and appreciate. All right, I always leave you with some things to avoid. This is my don't list. Here's my 5 don'ts when it comes to product and feedback and collaboration. So 1, don't assume all product feedback comes through solicited channels. Remember, even though you're asking your customers for feedback, doesn't mean that those are the avenues that they feel comfortable sharing it. They're going to give you information in a way that makes sense for them in that moment. So be prepared to capture unsolicited information as well, right? This could be, like I said, through conversations, could be through community, other places you're picking it up, and have a place to share and store it. Don't prevent your product teams from engaging with customers. I know that there's a lot of organizations where maybe the product team is not super excited about engaging with customers, or your customer success teams really don't want more people in the account. I'm telling you, everyone benefits from those conversations. So please facilitate and advocate for your product teams to have access to your customers. Be intentional about what that looks like, but give them that access. Don't take it personal. Right? Not everyone's product is perfect. You're going to hear feedback about things your customers don't like, things that don't work for them, and that's okay. It is not personal, right? They are looking for a technology to do what they need to do. Please create a safe place for them to provide that. Do not be defensive. Really lean into their feedback. And if there's something that's not clear to you or you're not understanding, ask really great questions to understand that. 4, don't forget to set proper expectations. This goes internally and externally, right? Whatever you decide to do or not to do, make sure that that's being communicated, set those expectations, make sure that there isn't anybody out there wondering what if. And number 5, don't deviate from your vision, stay focused. It is really easy for that squeaky wheel to make a lot of noise and to help you fall off track or cause you to fall off track. If you've committed to doing something, do it, see it all the way through. From a product standpoint, everyone benefits from that level of focus. So allow your customers to lean in, make sure you're driving those right expectations. But at the end of the day, don't always stop what you're doing and deviate because another customer has had a different ask. I've seen organizations do that. As a result, they don't innovate. They don't really do anything well. There's a lot of stop and go, and the experience for customers and for a product and user experience really poor. So have a vision, figure out ways to take your customers' feedback and kind of embed it into that, and really try to figure out ways to stay focused. So those are 5 mistakes, try to avoid as you're going through this, and we will open it up for Q&A.
Great. Well done, Kristi, as usual. Thank you. I love this topic. I'm just such a big believer in this, and tapping in to the wisdom, insights, and feedback of our customers and customer success teams who are speaking with customers every day. So, great job and great suggestions here. Couple of questions. One is that we have. Let me pull this over here. How do you? And you touched on this a little bit, but setting proper expectations with customers. What's the magic trick with that? You know, you got customers who so badly want a feature request that you may or may not want to accomplish. How do you have those conversations with customers?
I mean, it's not easy when you're going to tell them that like what they're asking for isn't something that you're going to be able to deliver. But what I've always found that works, and that's always going to be my policy, is honesty.
Yep.
Listen, the worst thing you can do is promise or mislead a customer and suggest that, oh, I know that we said we couldn't do that, but I'm going to keep pushing for it. And I'm going to keep trying. Like, it's fine to let them know that you're advocating for it. But if the reality is you're not going to deliver something, don't misrepresent reality for them. Definitely keep advocating. Make sure that their needs are clearly articulated to the internal teams that you're working with, right? Dave, we do this all the time, right? But if something is prohibitive, if it's a blocker, if it is something that is preventing a customer from using your product or getting any value at all, definitely make sure you're representing it correctly. If it's hey, I really wish that your product was purple instead of blue, again, represent it with a sense of reality there too. So that way, again, you're doing what you need to for your customers, but just
Yeah.
be honest with the expectations you're setting.
Yeah, and I think there's one scenario that I feel like I've got tripped up unintentionally in the past where we have a conversation with a customer, this either in this life or past life at a different company, and we at the time there is an honest that item is honestly on the roadmap, but for some reason in the coming months or weeks or quarters, that gets slipped out for other priorities. I think the key thing there is to remember that.
Yes.
Remember and go back to have that conversation with the customer. Let them know. Look, everybody, most of the people we deal with, they get it. They understand that there's only so much you can do on the roadmap, and I think that they appreciate that transparency and honesty. But remember, if you promise something that was true, but then it changed because our businesses change all the time, to go back, follow up with that customer, have another candid conversation, and make sure they understand it, to make sure they're good. Okay.
Yes.
Um, a lot about how do you close the loop with feedback? Where do you track product requests, and what's the right way to close the loop? Is there any other tips and tricks that you would recommend of closing the loop on that?
Well, I like the way that we use here at ClientSuccess, that we've used Canny and Product Board as two tools that we've got in our tech stack that allow us to collect customer feedback and then also really facilitate collaboration with our product teams directly with our customers who are submitting those ideas. It
Yeah.
allows our customers to see what we've allocated to the roadmap, where we're at with things, and then be able to say, hey, look, this was just released, but also making sure that your client, your customer success teams have that visibility too, so that in their conversations that they're having that dialogue with them and that they're being properly trained and enabled on the things that they've asked for. So from a product standpoint, like I said, there's a couple tools that I think are really good at helping do that at scale, especially if you know that customers are upvoting things and that they're asking. It gives you clear visibility and line of sight into what's being asked for, and when you deliver, being able to close that loop. Obviously making sure that everyone in your organization is working with your customers, that they have visibility into what's coming down, what's being innovated on, when it's being released, and so that they can have those conversations too.
All right. Manil, last question. Manil asked a question that I think is one of the hardest things as a founder to balance. And this is the decision between new product features for sales, for new revenue, versus enhancements or features for retention. So how do you balance that?
Dave, I'm gonna let you answer that one. I'm gonna drink my tea. This is something we literally, like, I feel like the Kermit the Frog meme right now, where I'm just like, you take this
I'll
one.
answer. Such a hard question. I will give you, and we've honestly we struggle with that. I'm not going to say that we're perfect at that, because we're not. That is the ongoing challenge that we have. We're always thinking about, do we build for current customers or new customers? And both of them are good. Both of them are good answers. A lot of times, what we'll try to do is find where they overlap very well, because they don't overlap well. There's sometimes where the market, new prospects, are looking for something where your current customers are begging for something else. Hopefully, you can find an intersection between the two. And then the second one is just depends on the common answer that Kristi says. It depending on where your situation is. I will say that Mark Roberge gave a interesting feedback where he said he recommends that you always focus on retention first. That if you try to go for growth, without having strong product market fit or strong retention, then you will always be hampered in your growth. But if you will go and fix retention, and you will enhance and improve your product to have strong product market fit first, then that will help you accelerate on your growth path. So I would give that recommendation from Mark Roberge, one of the greatest thought leaders in SaaS sales. And so anyway, Kristi, thanks so much. I know we're out of time. Thanks for bearing through it. Even though you're sick, you did a great job.
Hopefully it was okay.
No, thanks to everybody who joined us. We're sad that this boot camp series is coming to an end, but we will be around through the month of December. I think we've got a webinar or two coming up.
Yep.
But we're always here with great content, a great help, and a great solution to use if you're looking for a solution. So thanks for joining us today. Hope you close out the month strong and have a great December. And we'll see you soon. See you, everyone.
Bye.